Okay, so in this video we are going to be creating an isometric level. So it's pretty much the same approach, or pretty close at least, approach that what we did for the top-down game. We need to create a tile map or multiple tile maps created in layers. We need a set of tiles and we need a tile palette. The process is pretty straightforward if you understand the top-down approach. So the first thing, we need to create our own tiles in the isometric perspective. To save us some time, I'm going to again take advantage of Open Game Art, and I found these tiles from Kenny. You have here, can let me show you what Kenny did with the tiles, and then we have the every single tile in an individual file. So it created the tiles, and he even mentioned here each tile is in a 30-degree angles in a 40 degrees viewpoint. So the position of the tile is rotated 30 degrees, the position of the camera is rotated 45, and each tile is saved in a file 256 by 512 pixels. This information is important later when you are importing these tiles, because we are going to be using that information later. I posted the link for you to download these tiles in Moodle, so you can go ahead and download these, and we are going to import in Unity. Okay, I'm here already in Unity. I created a new project, a blank project, a 2D project, just like we did before. And now I'm going to import that package from Kenny. I have it already downloaded. Let me import them. Okay, I imported everything, and I have here a folder with subfolders with a lot of tiles. One specifically is this isometric, and in the isometric you are going to see, let me go to inspector, you are going to see that every single tile is 256 pixels horizontally and 512 pixels vertically. And the thing to remember is that the actual tile is sort of at the bottom of the tile, not at the very bottom, it's almost at the bottom of the tile. This is important because later this will cause us a little bit of a problem for rendering the tile. I will show you this in a moment. Before, one thing we need to change, that by default Unity is going to load every single file using 100 pixels per unit, and we know that in our case it's supposed to be 256, and it's assuming that each sprite has a multiple tiles, which is not true. We have a single image per file. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to Ctrl A and select everything, and I'm going to change that. So make sure all the texture type is set to sprite, all the sprite mode is going to be set to single, all the pixels per unit is going to be 256. We still need to work on pivot. The pivot could be custom, and 0.5 in X, sorry, and 0.13 in Y. I will show you why I chose these values in a moment. And also we need to make sure alpha is transparency is checked, and we want to filter mode to be point, because we are using pixel art, and we want the compression to be none. We don't want compression, we don't want filter, because we are working with pixel art, and these images could end up having some sort of blur, some sort of anti-aliasing, and it would reduce the quality of our tiles. So hit apply. It's going to take a while. There you go. We will change that. You might be asking why I chose these values for the pivot and what the heck is a pivot. So let me show you for one example. Let me choose the first one, barrel E. Let me open this in the sprite editor, and here we have it. Notice this blue circle over here. That's the pivot of the tile. The pivot is basically the pixel unit is going to use to represent the center of the renderable tile. By default, this would be something like this, center. So it would be the center of the actual image. So if I try to render this image, I would place that pixel on my screen, and the actual tile, the actual pixels would have this offset below the tile. So everything would be shifted a couple pixels, and it would not look good. So I want to change the center of the pivot to the actual center of the image I want to render. And by making a few tests, I noticed that if I change this to 0.13, I find an approximate good center for my tiles. That's why I chose this value. I basically play around with these values until I find something that suits my game. Okay, so that's why we changed to the pivot in every single tile to 0.5 in X. So that basically means the half the horizontal dimension, and 0.13 almost at the bottom. That's 0 and that's 1 in Y direction. So 0.13 is 13% in the beginning of the Y dimension. So it's sort of at the center, and I hit apply, and now I have my tiles centered at a satisfactory position. Now that we have that, we can start working on creating tiles and tile palettes. So the process is going to be repeating what we did for top-down. First, I'm going to be creating a tile map. So instead of rectangular, this time we're going to use isometric. Remember, we have isometric and isometric Z as Y. This first one is if you have a flat environment, all the tiles would be at the same level. Isometric Z as Y, we can emulate height using the Y direction. I have another video in Moodle if you want to try that one. For this example, let's use isometric, and let me name my tile background the same we did before. And I will create a second one already, since we are doing similar exercise, and I hope you guys already know the process. So I'll call this one details, and this is going to be my second tile, and my second tile map, better saying. And don't forget to change the ordering. You can either create a new layer or changing the ordering layer. Let's change this one to order 1. So this way, whatever tile I place in the details level is going to be on top, above the background one. And we need tile palettes, at least one tile palette. To keep things organized, I'm going to create a folder. Let's call this tile palettes, and create a new palette. Let's call this isometric dungeon, and it's not rectangle, it's isometric. I can use the default values, hit create, save in that folder, and there you go. Now we can bring my tiles to that folder, select them all, drag and drop, select the correct folder, and import them. Boom! There you go. We have now my tile palette with all the tiles ready for me to start drawing. And the process is again exactly the same as we did for the top-down version. We start by choosing which is the tile map we want to render. Let's go for background. Let's choose like this tile over here, and you can start painting. So I can paint individual tiles, or I can select the box selection and paint entire boxes. I can create some details. So now, the designers in the room, it's time for you to shine and create your own game levels. So let me go, like this pillar here, I'm going to paint in the details level, something like that, to make it look good. I can add a few barrels. Remember that every single tile is in fact 4 tiles, because the artist Kenny created the tiles here in 4 different orientations: east, north, south, and west. So you can actually create, see, I can actually create, let me show you examples for the stairs in all 4 directions, like so. You have here all 4 directions for the steps, all 4 directions for every single tile. So it's totally up to you guys to now play around and start creating your levels.